it's not that they're not motivated. It's their perception of what perfect or what workouts and nutrition should be is distorted.
Right.
Because they are motivated. They have graduate degrees. They have college degrees. They are CEOs. They are high level employees.
They make more money than you.
Yeah. Or
stop telling them they're not motivated. As a coach, have you ever thought they just don't want it bad enough, or they must be lying to me, or they just don't have the willpower? Well, if you are, welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about poor assumptions that you're keeping for your client that ultimately are keeping them stuck. So if you are ready, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. Well, welcome everyone. For those of you new to this podcast, for the first 10, 15 minutes, we talk about our lives, babies, puppies, and reality TV. So if you want to jump to the episode, check out the show notes below and it will take you to the topic of the day. So,
okay.
I had a very traumatic morning. So I walk Liberty about 2 miles and then I come back and get Harlem because she's too old. We literally walk towards the mountain, to the next street, down, back, up the street.
You have your loop.
Yep. So I'm walking. We get to the end of this street. So we do the almost all the way around. And there's a dog off the leash.
Oh, no.
Now, the last time this happened, the dog was...
Is this the same dog?
No.
Okay.
So the dog was very timid. So dog wanted nothing to do with us.
Okay.
And I ended up helping that dog and finding its owner. But this one wasn't. This dog, so I stop, I turn around, I start walking the other way. I see my other neighbor who lives behind me with her pit bull who is been traumatized in its life. She's walking the other way when she sees me turn around. So we both start walking the other way. This dog sees my dogs, comes towards us. And I'm trying to go. It catches up to us. While wagging its tail, will not leave them alone. Starts jumping on their backs. I'm trying to pull them. It's just me by myself. And I'm just like, go away. Go away. No, it doesn't. Just keeps. And you can hear the girls start growling. And I'm like, finally, my fight or flight kicked in. I was like, somebody help me. Help me. I start screaming it. Help me. Somebody help me. I felt like I was screaming for 3 minutes. And my dogs, thank God, were being okay. And then the dog kind of left. Harlem got out of her collar. I don't usually put her on her harness because we're walking around the block, right? So now I've got to get her harness on. Someone's like, are you okay? I was like, I think so. Just need to get her collar back on. Liberty's like, la, la, la.
It's like, nothing is bad. It never happened to me again.
Never again. And so the dog comes back. And same thing. And I'm just like, someone come fucking help me. Thank God I wasn't being attacked by a fucking human.
Yeah.
Because my neighbors obviously don't have quick reflexes. So this man, he must have been working like a pool guy, comes over and he even walks very slow. But thank God he came over and was like, get away. So the dog left. And then my neighbor who was walking her pit bull went to take her pit bull back. Now, again, she lives behind me. So she had to walk all the way up and all the way down. I'm just like, she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, my face was bit off right now.
Yeah.
What were you gonna do about it?
Kind of.
So I call Mark and I'm like, because the dog starts coming back around, but it's at the end of the street. I'm now at the opposite end. We just run home and I just literally started crying. I was like, that was fucking scary. Another incident in my life where I needed help.
And no
one showed up. And I was like, fuck. And then I started questioning, you guys probably will understand. I started questioning my response of on someone's Ring camera. I'm just screaming bloody murder. That's what first went in my head. And I was like, no, you're not going to do that. The little part of you reacted in the best way that I could in that moment. You had no idea what was going to happen. I was actually concerned for that dog more than, all dogs.
Yeah.
Because Harlem doesn't fuck around. You get in her space enough.
Well, and to get in the middle of a dog fight too.
Oh, exactly.
It's not.
That's what was going
good.
through my head.
Yeah.
And then
because that's it.
I've never seen Liberty in this situation.
Yeah. Well, and she's still new. She's not new.
2 months old or 2 months together.
Yeah, it's still new. It's because one time my cousin was walking her dog and the baby at the time.
Oh, geez.
In Tempe, and these dogs came out and attacked her. So she dove in front because obviously she's with her kid, like, and
Yeah.
the dog. So she got all bit up and scratched up. I know, because some dogs weren't on their what's it called, leash, but they were just kind of like wild. And
Yeah.
so it was
Same.
it was this whole thing.
It was a very cute dog. And like it had one of those like chain collars around its neck.
Oh.
So it has a home somewhere. And then when I get home, I'm like, should I go get it?
No.
Like, and save it? And I'm like, I need to decompress.
Yeah.
And I just like cried. And I'm like, because every time I see Liberty, I go, you're safe here. You're never going to get hurt. Like, I tell her that probably every day. Like, you're never going to get hurt again. So that was my morning.
What did Mark say?
Oh, you want to know what Mark said?
Yeah.
He goes, I'm like sitting there and I'm like standing at the counter and I have my like hands in my head. And he goes, are you nervous? I go, no, dummy. I was scared. It like doesn't give me a hug. I was actually not pleasant. I was not happy with his response, but I just let it go because I'm like, I'm not going to get in a fight with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that. Also, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patty's Day. Didn't even know it was St. Patty's Day.
It's his.
All my days blend
Amanda's
together.
got green in her slippers. So I dressed appropriately, even though you guys are going to get this like 4 days later.
Yes.
So how was your morning?
This morning was okay because my child slept well last night.
Yay.
I know it seems like she does 3 rough nights, 1 good night. So we're on a good night.
Good.
And so, yeah, yesterday was really hard because I was just like, because that, like 3 nights in a row of not sleeping well, you're like, okay, I'm done. Like my patience is 0 and I have to have patience. I have to find patience and somehow have to find a nap, but time it well with her. But our weekend overall was good. So we started doing Harper happy hours, I'm calling them.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. So, because we would go out to dinner every Friday, then we had a baby and you're like, I don't even have a shirt on for like the first 3 weeks.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, I kind of got it. And then you think about going out to eat with a baby and you're like, no way. So Michael was like, hey, we used to do that. And like, cause someone posted about going to happy hour. And so he was talking, I was like, why don't we do that? Like, why don't we just try? And so he was out of town last week. And I said, when you get back, we're going to do it. So he's like, we're going somewhere close just in case shit hits the fan.
Oh, look at him.
And I was like, oh, good job, daddy. And, so we went to Cook and Craft off in High Street. So we went at like 4. So, it was relatively not busy and it was fine. We did okay. Yay. Yeah. So get this, the server. So Michael ordered some sliders for happy hour. Didn't get them, of course. And so I was like, do you want me to say something? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. Like as usual. And the server, he comes back. He goes, so we get both our food. He's like, how is everything? We're like, oh, it's good. And he's like, oh, the sliders, about those. And Michael's like, yeah. And I can tell he's about to be like, oh, forget about it. He goes, they're going to be late. And then just walks away. And we're like, okay.
Okay.
I know. Thank you. So, yeah, it was good.
It's so funny when a server doesn't admit. Like,
I know.
I forgot to put those in.
Just admit.
I did all the time. Like, honestly,
I forgot. Because we're going to, at least she admitted, like,
right.
You're going to be a lot less agitated or a lot less eye rolled.
Well, yesterday we ordered US egg.
Oh,
I love that place. They have these bowls. So it's chicken, egg whites. I do egg whites, bacon, tomato, avocado, hash browns.
Oh, yummy.
It's a bowl.
Yeah.
It's delicious. It's very big. So I eat it for breakfast and lunch. And I call the Greenway one and I order and he goes 7th Street and Greenway. I say, yes. And then I said 10, 15 minutes. Great. Mark goes, pick it up. They don't have your order. And then so I called back the same number. Go, my husband's there, say you don't have my order. Well, you must have called the wrong number. No.
I called this number.
I called the number back. I was like, where did the food go? So I know it probably got made twice.
Yeah.
So, okay. We binged a whole television series yesterday. Temptation Island. This was good. If you haven't already, please follow me.
I'll hook up with each other again.
Hold on.
Okay.
This is I'm going to do a whole segment on it on Dating Deja Vu. If you haven't already subscribed to my podcast, you're missing out. So it's couples that are, 1 to 3.5 years together.
Okay.
And this is their weird way of testing if the relationship is solid.
That's always a good idea.
I know. I mean, I get it. It might as well. And one of the girls said it early or late in the series. She goes, I would rather do this and now and see if he needs to get his
crap together,
this shit out now than later down the line. But also that was the couple that ended up surviving. So it's couples. And then this is the craziest. So the couples. So there's 4 girls, 4 guys that are in the relationships. 4 girls go to one house, 4 guys go to the other house. And then in the house is 10 temptresses and 10 tempters. Right. And they're all hot.
Of course.
And so Mark and I literally binged the entire thing. It was nuts. Like the amount of just justifying being a fucking douchebag.
Like, what's the reason for what did they say is justifying?
Well, the one guy, I think if it was drinking, I would be drunk by how many times he said the word threesome, and he ended up having a threesome with 2 of the temptresses. And then
the girls are there literally just to like hook up.
Yes. Well, they're also there to meet someone. I go, okay. And I'm going to talk about this again on my episode.
Meet somebody that's already in a relationship.
Hooking up with someone else.
Yeah.
And you don't think that they're not going to do that to you.
Red
Stupid.
flag.
So he goes, well, I'm glad I got that out of my system. I didn't even I don't need to do that anymore.
What?
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's just hilarious. Like, well, you called me. You said that I was a piece of shit boyfriend. So that justified why I had sex with a girl in the bathroom. Okay. Like it was hilarious. But this really cute couple, Mark loves all that shit. Okay. It's really cute couple, didn't get tempted. They ended up getting engaged at the end. And that's not the premise. Like you don't win money or anything. You either stay together or
like a Survivor. Well, it's like Survivor, you won money.
It's kind of Love is Blind.
Okay.
Like you either stay together or you don't. Like that's it. So they ended up getting engaged and it was really cute. So kudos to them.
Good job.
That was that. Dad is good. Everyone is not everyone. A handful of people are asking. He is off of the high flow oxygen on a cannula, just the regular little deal.
Is he out of ICU?
Yeah, he got out of ICU last Sunday. Okay. So he's been in a regular room. And listen, guys, PT and OT come in. And they try to do all this shit to him.
Yeah.
And his heart rate or his oxygen went down to 70%, which is, he turned purple. And they're like, okay, so in ICU, he got in a chair. He was able to use the restroom. He walked the whole floor. His oxygen was fine. But in these fools come in and start up and down. And they did it so pretty rapidly. I'm sitting there. And I'm like, so they're the ones suggesting he go to assisted living after this. So yeah. And I'm like, I told them, I go, I don't understand. He walked the floor in ICU and was fine. And y'all haven't let him get out of bed. He hasn't been out of bed since last Sunday in 1 week.
Ooh.
Yes. So they have to make sure he doesn't get bed sores and all this stuff. So positive is.
See, I figured that was at the realm of your sister, suggesting that.
Nope. The positive is the nicest assisted living in their area has accepted insurance. Insurance. So he and my brother already toured it, and they let my brother go in. It wasn't even you have to have an appointment because those places can be sketchy. He goes, my dad goes, they don't want you to see them abusing me. I was like, shut up.
Oh my God.
And my mom can stay there, which is nice. Because again, with having my dad is blind, I can't tell you, and for all of our nurses listening, please reiterate this. When someone is blind in a hospital, it is incredibly difficult no matter how wonderful your nurses are, because all the other staff has no fucking clue. Even just him grabbing his water from the table and drinking it, putting back on the table is difficult, because then people come in and start moving stuff.
Yeah.
He's
got it exactly where it needs to be.
Correct.
So he could just grab.
Right. Where they don't think about that. But we think about that as his family. So
do they have a thing on the door that says, hey, he's blind?
No.
They don't have
I have asked.
That's shocking.
The second time I was in the hospital, I was I need something. Because they have those little flags.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
I go, put it on the door.
The food restrictions and everything.
Right. All it says is fall risk. And
everybody's a fall risk in the hospital.
Correct. They wrote it on, so there's a thing, how to communicate with me. And they put a box where it says blind. But obviously nobody looks at that. Even the chaplain was She said something because she came in because it's St. Joseph's Hospital. So they have like a chaplain and she come pray and stuff. And she said something. I go, he's blind.
It's like the story of your life. Like,
I know.
My dad's blind.
My dad's blind. Like,
my dad's
come
blind.
on. But I mean, at this point, he's been to this hospital so much that the nurses all know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we have wonderful nurses. I told you about the cinnamon rolls, right?
You told, I think you put it on the Instagram, but not on the pod.
Yeah. So he got out of ICU, or he was in ICU. He got off of the tube, was able to eat like the next morning. He wanted an apple turnover. I couldn't find one.
Very
so
specific.
Yes. And I went and looked and I called around. So he's like, I'll have a cinnamon roll. And the nurse, his ICU nurse, heard that and overnight made him homemade cinnamon rolls between her shifts. And they were the most, I will eat those. That is a love food. They were so good.
Really?
There was no icing on them.
There wasn't any icing?
No, it was just cinnamon and like bread and butter. Oh, man. So shout out to Danielle at St. Joseph's Hospital ICU. She took care of him. I mean, I feel like she, and I know nurses aren't supposed to do this, but like saw her father or someone close to her in my dad. Like, that's how I felt she took care of it.
Nurses can make all the difference in like your experience. So like when I was doing birth, when I was doing the birth,
I was knocking out that off of my to-do.
Yeah. I mean, those nurses really made all the difference in that experience because it could have been very different. And it is different for a lot of women. But the staff that I was fortunate enough to have, like, during birth and then even in the postpartum area, it was like Michael and I were just like, we could not, there was no complaints of anybody.
That's awesome.
They were just so like encouraging and very respectful and, you know, very friendly too.
Yes.
You know, they weren't like, okay, well, we have to do this. It was, and they were like, even like at one point with the Pitocin, I wanted to go down because I was like, this is too much. And I was like, what are the trade-offs, you know? And so like coaching me through that. But even at like when you're in labor, you're kind of a beezy. And so it like even just not taking that personally,
right?
You know, which I'm sure like they're trained to do. But I feel like, you know, 5 women are in labor and they're all being beesies to you.
Right.
At some point you're going to get like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to have strong boundaries. Now, this is kind of a segue into our topic today, but there was the first nurse that my dad had the first time he ended up in the hospital. She was, I call her Nurse Ratched because she was a fucking bitch. And she was like, we're like, can we get this? Can we get this? I mean, she's in our room. Yeah. So like, that's our time with her.
Right.
She's like, yeah, I have like other patients than you. And I'm like, no one, did we say? Like, because you're our sole nurse, we expect this right now. But she made this assumption that we didn't understand.
Like, yeah, she's your like.
Yes. Yeah. Like, we're not idiots. We are not expecting this right away. But when you can, and I know because you have more patients, I need to ask for all these things right now.
Yeah.
So that over the next 2 hours, because that's usually how long it takes, we can get those things in. Like, just the assumption. And she was the night nurse. And I'm like, you need another career. So speaking of that, we are going to talk about
people who need another career.
People who also probably need other careers. Is assumptions that coaches make about their clients that are, I would say, not only keeping the client stuck, but also just reiterating disordered eating, disordered training, and really just diet culture bullshit in general. And what this does too is it really breaks trust and rapport, I think, and creates a gap between like the coach's expectations, which we'll talk about. I say that in air quotes, and then the client's reality.
Yeah. And I think this is why I wanted to have this conversation sooner than later is based on our call with Michelle, but then also in some of the groups that I'm seeing on Facebook that I'm part of for coaches, it's all about like, they're not doing this. They're not doing this. What do I do? What do I do wrong? Or how do I get them to buy in? And it's all about like more so of like selling instead of understanding where the person's coming from and getting on their level. And I know you have had this conversation with me quite a few times for some of our clients of like where I'm stuck and helping them. And I need you to like pull me out and kind of coach me through coaching them.
Right.
Because I'm finding gaps in my ability to, I guess, support them without compromise.
Right. What I see, and I see this, so for those of you listening, I oversee all coaches, and then obviously we work through any specific clients that are needing assistance. And one of the things I see is that you, as a coach, and I've done this before, put what you would do as Bible, right? As the way. And when they're not doing that, you get frustrated because you, and you also want them to see the results because you're a caring person, but you feel this kind of barrier that you can't get over, when really the barrier is in here, right? And then, like you said, when you can take yourself out of that and see the client in front of you, that's a totally different type of interaction, right? Really. And coaching.
Well, and the interaction isn't just communications, the way you're like verbally saying things, like so sometimes, like you've even suggested, okay, just go to like voice message, because they might be reading it how they're interpreting it from a judgmental standpoint and you're not, or you're saying it in a judgmental standpoint, but we're going to, when you're sending it through voice, you can't really do that. I mean, you can, but it's going to make you double check yourself. But also, like on our one-to-one calls, like what are your physical cues that you're giving them as well? So it's not just messaging back and forth, but it's, you know, even if you're training in the gym, your body posture,
right?
Like if they're coming in and they're late again because they have 3 kids, but they're 15 minutes late every appointment, and you're like, okay, well, I guess we'll just get started. It's like, you got to recognize that they're showing up, at least, you know, even if they're 15 minutes late, they've got 3 kids. Like, until you're in that position, you may not understand what that's like.
I'd be like, we're going to consider that your warm up, because I'm sure you ran around, you know, and then how wonderful they would feel like, thank you.
Yes.
You know, no, it can create a conflict in the relationship. I think also as a coach, if you're coaching based on what you did or your work ethic, you're not creating an environment where people are going to see results, and ultimately that's going to affect your business, right? And a big thing too I see with clients, or not clients, with coaches, is that they only have one way. So then either the client gets very rigid in doing it that way, and they don't understand how to adapt it to their lives. So the client becomes very dependent on the coach, and that's not what we want. And there's a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of therapists out there who need job security, and they think job security comes from keeping people stuck and sick.
Do you think they know that? Like, they think like,
no, they just don't have the education on how to actually help people.
Yeah. So it's not like they're thinking like, man, I need to keep this person reliant on me. No. They're just thinking like, okay, like we'll just add in this. Okay, now we'll just do that. They're always thinking of like the next step to guarantee their success.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, I have a friend, I think I've said this on here before, who's been with the same therapist for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's like,
not good.
Like, I mean, it's one thing to, and this isn't her. It's one thing to like my therapist, Julia. I haven't seen her since Brooklyn died. And then I called her when my dad was in the hospital. We had a session. So it's like these like touch points.
Yeah. There's a difference.
Yeah. Not like every week, every Wednesday at 10, you know? So, all right. Common assumptions coaches make. First one, they just don't want it bad enough.
Sure. Go. So when we talk about this, they just don't want it bad enough of like, and I hear actually Michael will say this, they either got it or they don't. And I'm like, that's not really enough. Like, there's so much context to they just don't want it bad enough. And it may be they don't understand flexibility, that maybe they don't understand what is their true why. So we talk about bad enough is usually when they want like physical changes. They want to feel better in their body, but they want to look better. But why? And this goes into one of the things you always do is, okay, but why? But why? But why? And it really comes down to getting to the root of it. And I think it goes back to the example that we always talk about of, we hear what the clients, or maybe the person who's interested in our coaching, perceived problem is, only to identify the real problem.
Right.
And so when they say they don't want it bad enough, you're perceiving their problem is that they just don't want it bad enough. Like they got to really want to do this. They got to really step up. That if they want this lifestyle, I'll see this. If they want this lifestyle, then they know what to do. They should take ownership of it. But you have to understand, like, they have so many other things that they are taking ownership of. At some point, a client comes to you distraught and down and out, and they want you to take the ownership of that. And they want you to figure out what it is that is really the actual problem They just don't know that. And that's kind of your goal, is to figure out what is our actual problem. It's like, they just don't want it bad enough. They won't show up on time or consistently, like we talked about with the mom. It's like, well, or maybe she has 3 different things for 3 different kids that she's got to drop off, and hopefully timing comes out okay. And then she gets there and she's so overwhelmed and distraught from the day that to show up and do the work hard is a lot.
Right.
So maybe we practice flexibility in that sense.
Right. Well, I want to go back to something you said, that the coach doesn't think that they want it bad enough.
Yeah.
And that's really you projecting as a coach.
Yeah.
You are deciding if that person's reason for being there is good enough for you. You are making it about, well, I wanted this because, and you're comparing.
Yeah.
You're comparing to yourself and like
clients. Too.
Right. And other clients maybe, where that's not up to you. That's not up to you. And yes, a part of this process is the coach. So I want to say something. There's a difference between a trainer and a coach, right? Trainers, right? If they're just there in front of you, you're doing the corrective work, or
Picture Michael's trainer.
God, yeah. Picture Michael's trainer. But coaching requires another level. So yes, it is up to you to help them get to that deeper place. But if you're doing that, then you're not going to make the assumption that they don't want it bad enough, because you actually understand them. You are seeing inside, intimacy, into me you see. When you can open that up and understand what is important to your client, why they want to be healthier, you're going to have a level of empathy that you don't have when you just put a goal on a fucking assessment and I want to lose weight.
Smart goal.
Yeah, I want to lose weight. And that's it. And then you're like, and then the client's not seeing results because you haven't done the work to help them really understand, like, what does that mean? And then you're getting frustrated as a coach, and your assumption is they don't want to.
Well, and I want to do to defend coaches a little bit is to say, if you want to do just like general coaching, like you show up to, we'll say EOS or 24-hour fitness or whatever gym you're working
training
at, then if you want to just show up, train the people, collect your paycheck, leave, whatever they do after that is up to them. You're just with them for that hour, 30 minutes or however long, then that's fine. Like there is nothing wrong with that. But that also means you have to shut your pie hole. Sorry guys, that coffee in my mouth. Because it's not fair.
Don't fucking complain about that.
Well, don't complain about that if that's what you're going in there to do. And there's, again, nothing wrong with that. And some clients will appreciate that. Some clients will want more.
Right.
And they'll want more of like something what we offer. But you cannot say like they just don't want it bad enough when you're just there. Like if you're just, if this is just a job and you enjoy it and it's fine and you like spending your time in the gym, great. For us, this is not just a job. It's like, no, I believe in what we do so much that I want it to be successful, not only for the individual, but for the program and for the business. And because for coming from my end of working with Christina is you can, as a coach or a trainer, you can contract with anybody and that's fine. But you have to believe in what they're offering too.
Right.
And if you don't, then you're going to start having these kind of projections that you're putting on the clients that are gravitating towards that.
Absolutely. And when you were saying that, I was thinking about like the NFL, right? So you have the trainers, right? And they're in there and they're putting you to work. Yeah. You're grinding.
They got their structure.
Yeah. They're usually a little bit Goggins-ish, right? David Goggins, if you guys haven't heard that, kind of militaristic. I wouldn't say all of them. I don't actually know any of these people, but like in my mind, like I just assume that the trainers are a bit more.
Works like this.
Yeah. I am the founder. I am, what is his name?
Jerry Jones?
Oh, sure. No. The NFL
Roger Goodell.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was like,
I don't know why I know that name and you don't.
I know. I was like, wow, I'm impressed. So anyway, I assume, trainers are a bit more like, structured and they do the work. Whereas the coach is given the motivational speeches. They're talking about how to improve. They're doing way more. And I think that's something you need to ask yourself in this. Like, like you said, do I just want to train and like come in, leave? I don't necessarily need this relationship. I'm going to tell you that's still going to affect your business, but sure. Or am I a coach? And if I'm a coach, I need to take it to the next level.
Yeah. And one thing actually you had mentioned it is the motivation factor. And I'll see this, that they're not motivated enough. So replace that with they don't want it bad enough. They're not motivated enough. You're putting a label on them. And as we've talked about with our clients, is that it's not that they're not motivated. It's their perception of what perfect or what workouts and nutrition should be is distorted,
right?
Because they are motivated. They have graduate degrees. They have college degrees. They are CEOs. They are high level employees.
They make more money than you.
Yeah. Or
stop telling them they're not motivated.
Well, or even like go back to like nurse, right? She's motivated enough to wake up and work night shifts, for example. And so they are motivated. It's just their perception of what motivation towards exercise is, again, distorted from life experiences, their own experiences of binge and restrict or gaining weight, losing weight, their ability for time management. Like, so again, for coming from my perspective of moms, like time management is either down to a T or it's out the window.
Right.
There's really no in between.
Right.
So that's something to consider there.
Right. They're not lazy. They're not undisciplined. Like discipline is very different than consistency. And this isn't something that we have to like whip people into shape to do. We actually need to, as you're saying, like help them understand how to fit it into their lifestyle. And even because I have had clients who like, I have a client right now, she stopped doing her workouts and we tried something in place. I was like, okay, we cut down the workouts, still didn't do them. We had her go into the gym and just stretch for 5 minutes. Still didn't do that. So finally I said, I'm removing your workouts.
Yeah.
We're going to lower your calories because I had you at moderately or lightly active. Now we're sedentary. We're going to focus on walking.
Yep.
And we had the conversation, which I found out her sleep isn't great. She's very much a fire alarm client. Like everything needs to be on a fire alarm. Like
procrastinator.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we removed it. Do I think that she's lazy? No, I think that she and I are working on this fire alarm mentality. I truly believe she has actual like adult ADHD. And that's something I told her to talk to her therapist about. And it like very real.
Yeah.
Very real ADHD. And so rather than trying to force this thing, like you need more discipline, like wake up 20 minutes earlier, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, yes, we're trying to wake up a bit earlier, but we need to set up the sleep cycle. Like there's so many steps.
Yeah, we could wake up earlier, but if you slept like crap, like why we need that extra sleep.
Right.
And I actually have a client similar to this one right now. She travels a lot and she's pretty busy in their work. They're always just working. And so we do 3 workouts per week. Well, she's been doing 1 to 2 and it's been consistent. So, and she's in one of our graduation programs. So I messaged her. I said, look, I'm noticing you're doing 1 to 2 workouts per week. We've got 3 scheduled. How do you feel about that? She goes, honestly, I'm just kind of being lazy and apathetic. And I just have like zero kind of, not drive, but just, she's very apathetic right now. And I'm like, why don't we just switch it to 1? And she's like, no, I just need to get my butt in gear. I said, you've got 2 weeks. Let's see what happens. And because I've been working with her for some time, so it's a little bit more leeway than if she was new. And I said, in 2 weeks, we're going to reassess. If in 2 weeks we're not keeping up with that, then I'm going to bump it down. Because if it's up to me, we're just going to do 1 per week. And then I'm going to have bonus days. And that way, if you don't do the bonus days, I don't care because that wasn't an expectation that you and I decided together.
Yep. Just had this conversation yesterday. I see that you put 3 workouts in, but I have 2 upper or 2 lower. And I was like, well, in the past 6 weeks, you've done 3. 2 to 3.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do 2 to 3. And I have an added like hike, treadmill, walk.
Yep.
So good. But yes, you have to realize that the client is, while you might be quote unquote disciplined, your life as a coach. And here's the thing. I'm not talking to the coaches like Adele. Adele fucking gets it. Why does Adele get it? Because she's a mom.
Yeah.
She's a trainer, but she still has access to a gym in her house. So even for her, it's a bit easier, right? But she has that understanding. I'm talking to the younger coaches out there who, this is your job. You work at the gym, or maybe you have,
You mean younger? Let's preface that. Younger as in age or younger as in training experience?
Both.
Okay.
And the people who don't have a lot of responsibilities, right? Because you're going to see someone who has a gym at their house, does this for a living, like
Mhm.
has all the time, they can carve that into their schedule.
Yeah, even I would say though, even if they have a gym at their house, doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Because I go for a walk in my neighborhood and there's a lot of gyms and garages that are not.
There's one
gyms.
lady, her gym's always open in the morning, and she used to be in there, and I wanted to invite her to our in-person training, which we didn't get to do. Sad day.
Reschedule.
The other thing is they're making excuses. Now, I'm a big fan of helping people understand, is that a reason or is it an excuse, right? There's a difference between a reason. A reason is my dad's in the hospital. I'm staying overnight.
I'm not going to do my
workout.
Yeah.
Right? An excuse is more, well, we, let's see here.
Split a bottle of wine.
I guess with food, right? Everyone else was eating the tapas, so I just went in and had them too.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not a reason. That's an excuse. You had a choice.
But this goes back to, because you can say that's an excuse and have that communication. But when you say, like, there's a way to approach that in a way that's not attacking and pointing a finger at a client too. Because you can say, okay, does that happen regularly?
Right.
Because if it does, that's something we need to work on of how to either set boundaries with your nutrition or plan ahead when you're with this particular group or make adjustments for the following day.
Yep.
Now, if you go, well, that's an excuse.
Right.
Like, there's definitely, there's
I like
definitely
what you have here, like the difference between an excuse and a valid challenge.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and like the valid challenge would be, okay, great. If we normally do that with the tapas in the group, wonderful. How often do you get together with them? Because that's something we need to plan for, flexibility. But if you go, nope, if you really wanted to stay on your diet, like you just have to say no.
Right.
Then the client's going to be like, well, fuck that. Like, I just won't tell them.
Right.
So then it becomes parent, child, adult or authority figure.
Right.
And then now you're not getting all the information you need to help them.
Right. And then they're not going to see results because they're not being honest with you. And then you're going to be like, they're not trying hard enough.
Yes.
So, any other ones? I'm trying to think.
Well, they'll come as we.
Yeah. Well, I think too, and this isn't an assumption, but something to check yourself on is like, I just want this so bad for them.
Yes. You can't want it more than they do.
No, you cannot want it more. Though I had this conversation with Laura. I just want her to see results. I go, I understand that, but you're getting frustrated. And when I stepped into the situation and looked at I go, your client has seen 3.5 pounds of weight loss since whatever. I don't remember what the exact things were. I go, zoom it out. Just because this week has been stagnant, if you zoom it out, she's actually seen results. Have you told her that?
No.
Because you want this drastic thing. That's not her reality. Right. That's not this client's reality. She's the one who has tracked and not tracked. And, and I will tell a client, even with not tracking and then coming back to tracking. And that's what I said. When she was tracking these weeks, this is what her weight did. She wasn't tracking these weeks. We don't know what her weight did. So show her that, show her the results. When you do this, it's kind of like X plus Y equals Z. When you do this plus this, it equals this. And she's like, oh, you're right. And she said that. I just want it so bad for her.
Yeah, no.
You can't. I want to be a support for my client, but I am not the person doing the work. I'm just guiding them because clients will, I had a client the other day, like, Christina, I can't thank you so much. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be dating that same guy. She's one of my dating coaching clients. I said, it wasn't me. You made the choices. You did the work, right? Because I never want them to believe that, this is weird to say, that I have much. I can influence, but I can't do it. Does that make sense? I don't want them to think I did this
made that. Yeah. It's funny because
coerce them.
Well, no, I have an example. So my cousin was dating this guy and she was seeing this therapist, and after she would Marco me afterwards and be like, I think she's still trying to force me to date him.
Ooh.
And it would be but the situation, they needed to break up and blah, blah, blah. And he's not a bad guy. It's just there were certain circumstances where it was okay, this has run its course.
Yeah. And
she'd be like, every time I go, she's like, no, you should really do XYZ and it's, and similar thing for coaches of you can guide the horse to water,
right?
But you can't make the horse drink the water,
right?
And that's okay. But maybe they don't need that water. Maybe they need Gatorade. You know what I mean? They need something else.
They need
flexibility.
a cocktail. Just kidding.
And so it's really hard because you get into this kind of pull tug of like trying to force them to check that box that you're looking for off and getting almost the validation that you are a good coach.
I was just going to say that.
If they do the things that you want them to.
Right.
And so if your validation of a coach is only coming from clients doing exactly in success, then you're going to have a very hard time when you find the client that is not doing it or resist you the whole time, because that is a really challenging situation.
You have to have boundaries with yourself. Yes, we are in customer service. Yes, we want people to have a good experience, but sometimes the best experience is when someone has felt like a failure and a coach comes in and says, hey girl,
yeah,
it's okay.
You ain't no failure.
You ain't no failure, baby. Yeah. And you create that trust. So we want to talk about a little bit of like what's like as coaches, like let's keep these things in mind, what's actually going on. And the biggest thing, especially in this industry, because they've seen it so often, is fear of failure. And not just failure, but disappointment. Plenty of clients will not put things in the app because they think that you're going to judge them and that you're going to be disappointed. And then you're the coach who does that's just an excuse. Now we're really in that cycle of parent-child. I'm not good enoughness. This person decides if I'm good enough. And I'm just going to tell you, just fucked your relationship with that client.
Yeah. You can't really redeem.
And if the client is someone who is used to like emotionally abusive people, they will keep coming to you.
Oh my God.
But it's because they're used to that drama.
Say about the trainer.
As we said, if you want to go back to our episode of what trainers should be doing, you got to start with yourself.
Well, and so I have a perfect client for this. You could say, and she'll use these terms, she's failed dieting and failed weight loss so many times before that why does she deserve weight loss this time? This is her probably honestly like 10th go around of it.
Yeah.
Like, why is it this time that is going to finally do the trick? And so I could say easily like, well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. You have to put in the work, right? Like if you follow what I do, you will get weight loss. Or I can say, man, that must be really hard.
Right.
Like I can totally understand why you feel hesitant about this.
Right.
Like let's make sure we're taking this day by day then, instead of looking at it for years and long term.
Right. And some things I do, and I need to put it into, I didn't put it in for your new client. I created a video on the 4 levels of competency.
Oh.
Because I want clients to realize like you've been walking around in this unconscious incompetence, right? Then you realize there was a problem. So you're unconsciously competent. But in our program, you're going to live in that conscious competence for a while.
Yeah.
Right. And like realizing like I'm giving you the skills. You're trying those skills out. We together are seeing, did that skill work for you? Does it feel comfortable? And we do that over and over again. And then you get into that unconscious competence. But also I tell clients, I said, okay, I understand that. Like you're saying, that's very hard. It's very difficult. I want you to realize that there is one piece that you're getting here that you did not, it sounds like you haven't received yet, which is figuring out what's underneath all this, the mindset work. And I want you to just keep that at the forefront, that I'm not actually doing the same thing I've done before. So I can't fail, or I can't use this as a comparison to the past because it's actually different.
It's so funny you say that because one of that same client, I was like, I always ask them like, does your significant other know you're doing this? Because sometimes like they don't. And I'm like, you need to tell them. You need to tell them what's going on because they're fighting with you about something that you're not even fighting with them about. You're fighting with them because you're having a bad body image day and they think you're just being mean about the dishes.
Right.
And so I was like, you need to tell them, and you need to tell them when it's a bad day. Now, I don't say like, do it right now, but we have that conversation. So so for her, it was so funny because she's like, man, I thought my whole issue was like trying to get my nutrition figured out. And I was like, yeah. And so what's the actual issue? And she was like, my mindset. And I was like, yes. And so then I was like, did you tell, because I was like, what does your significant other think about this? And because he didn't know what she was doing. And she's like, he thinks it's really good that I'm doing this. And I was like, how did that feel opening up to him? It felt really great. Okay.
Yay.
Like now we move on of like clarifying what it is you're doing, what it is you want. Because if you don't have that, you're going to think like they just don't want it bad enough. Well, like, why is it that they don't want it bad enough? What do they actually want? Why is it like having a better body is the ideal?
Right. Maybe because she hasn't had sex with her husband in 2 years and now it's creating a rift in their relationship because she doesn't want to be seen naked.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to lose her husband. She loves her husband, but sex is important to them. Like, that's a real thing.
It is a real
I
thing.
want to have sex with my husband with the lights on. You know, this is things that women tell us. I don't want my children to continue this intergenerational trauma that I've seen decade over decade in my family. And I've seen my aunts and my grandparents and all the things continue this. I want to change that. That's a big deal. Another one, and we hopefully put it out there, crew. We need a name for our listeners. We'll get, hey,
Mindies.
No. Oh, like Swifties?
Yeah.
I kind of like it. Give us some names. So we hope to have Dr. Joey Munoz on. So overwhelm and like you're saying lack of clarity, but there is just so much on information on the web.
Yeah.
And coaches, when we started talking to clients, we're still talking to you coaches. Just because it worked for you, I see this so much when people lose weight,
keto,
and they
carnivore,
did it
paleo,
this way,
fast.
Right. They get so fixated on one way. And when that way doesn't work for your client, then I've got to have more options, but also we're not just changing things constantly. Yeah. And like with my clients, I'm like, we're going to try this for a month or 2 months. Like, give me a good amount of time. And it's hard because some clients forget that that's what we're doing. So I have to like reiterate. We're focusing on quality of food. We're focusing on quality of food or whatever it is. But, you know, it can just be so much. There can be overwhelm. And oftentimes coaches will see, oh, you didn't drop weight this week in 1 week, so I'm going to do something else. And the client's like, what the fuck? Too much.
Perfect example is the new client that I've got is there's so much overwhelming information of where we can take her that I could see where she easily, and she's one of those that will do it all. Like, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I'm like, no. Like, you don't understand. Like, you tell me what you can do and we'll do that.
Yes.
And so, for example, she needs to eat more, of course. She needs to have more consistent meals. Protein is okay, but we need to increase that. We need to increase carbs, which is scary. So her workouts completely disrupted, like record scratch on what's happening with those. Yeah. So it's like I could say, okay, we're doing this, then we're doing this, then we're doing this, then we're doing this. And now we're in week 1. Like, we haven't even gotten to like week 4. Yeah. And plus you have assignments. Plus you need to take time for those. Plus you need to really sit with them. And I'm going to message you like multiple times throughout the week. Like, that's a lot. Correct. And so I always tell them, like, just workouts, prepare yourself. Like, look over them and we'll address it as we go. Nutrition, this is, what we're going to do.
Right.
And then
just stop
listening.
There.
Yeah.
1 or 2 things at a time.
Yes.
Like, let's get.
I'm not going to say increase calories and have this and do this and this. Literally what I did last week is like, she had, we'll say 79 grams of protein on average. I just bumped her up to 85.
Right.
Because I know, okay, if I bump her up to 85 grams, that's going to increase her calories. And now she's got an actual target of protein that she's going to have. Right. Okay, great. Double dipped.
No, it's really important to start slow, find that consistency. Once a client is consistent, you can add to it. And if that's what they want, right? We just need to be careful of putting like too much information, overwhelming them with the tasks and the habits and the changes in their lives. But also, I would gonna flip that. And as a coach, you do need to have an arsenal of tools instead of just having one way, because I've been doing this for a long time and there is not one way for one person versus the other. It's always going to be different. And that's the last thing is like, your client needs to have a connection to their plan, because the lack of a connection to their plan is just going to result in that all or nothing, perfect fail, starting and stopping.
Well, it's just another diet.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just another like cookie cutter thing, and it doesn't have any sort of customization to them. And let's face it, people make a lot of money on doing these things. They have, I was watching Sonata Greca, who's this trainer. She was like Kim Kardashian's trainer, and I've seen her app. And the movements on there are very advanced. They are, yes, women could see results, but they'd also need to change their diet. And she like makes it seem like it's this like custom thing. It's like, no, you've programmed these workouts and you only have like I think it's only a couple of options for them. So whereas like our workout program has like body weights and bands, like a beginner program, a dumbbell only program, and it just kind of that a lot of people make a lot of money off of that. Whereas for you as a coach, like customizing things for clients is going to, because you know how many people bought that program and didn't pay for it. Right. And if that's who you are, do you. Like if that's your bread and butter, like I don't really actually care. I just want to make money. We are not going to be your friends. So for the people listening who actually care, like that customization and saying, okay, like I have a client, she has an hour and a half for lunch, but on days that she has certain, she's a judge, certain trials, it goes a bit in. On other days, it doesn't. So then we're able to like say, okay, like we made her workout shorter. And then if she needs less time, she only does the first compound.
She knows like how to go through the workout. She's educated on how to modify it for her.
And I only did 3 compounds this time. And then she's the one actually have the optional hike. So it's very custom. Or like my client who is traveling, I've talked about him before. He has a hotel body weight workout if he doesn't want to go into the gym. He has a dumbbell only workout. He has a full gym at his home. Both of his homes, the one in Tribeca and the one in New Jersey.
So hard.
I love it. He makes me feel so fancy. And then he has like squash warm up and golf warm up.
Yeah.
And it's
perfect.
It's all in on demand. So, all right. Last thing, how can coaches shift their approach? So we talked about common assumptions. We talked about what's actually going on with the client. So fear of failure, lack of clarity, the emotional and mental load, and lack of commitment to the plan. Lead with curiosity, not judgment. What is going on, right? I'm curious that, I saw that you didn't get your workouts in last week. I'm curious what happened there. It's something I say to my clients often in that way. So asking like what's getting in the way instead of assuming that they're not committed.
Yeah.
It's just so important because again, if I'm customizing it, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that you had custody trials Tuesdays and Thursdays and that feeds in or goes into your lunchtime. Let's not even worry about working out Tuesdays and Thursdays. Let's try like, what are the easiest days? Mondays and Fridays. Okay, great. And then can we throw one in on the weekends? Perfect.
I always like to ask, like, what is the client telling themselves too? So like, let's go back to your client of the trials. And so say you had workout scheduled Tuesdays and Thursdays and she didn't do them. Instead of like, so first we're going to figure out like, okay, what is actually the barrier that happened to that? But like, since you didn't do them, what are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself you're a failure? And it's like, oh,
that's
no.
Point.
Yeah. Like it's not necessarily that. It's just that what we had programmed failed you and your lifestyle. That's what I find with a lot of like the one-stop shop of like the apps or the like blanket diets is no, the diet failed you because it didn't fit within your lifestyle. So we need to be able to be flexible with that. But if they're like, man, so like going back to my client that's, gained and lost weight quite a few times, she always tells herself, what?
I have something to say.
Okay, say it. Is that what we should do? We have something to say.
Touch your nose.
Yeah.
You just made me think of something like coaches who don't understand that their plan has failed the clients project that failure onto the client.
Yes. They go, well, because that goes back to you just didn't want it bad enough. Like I told you exactly what to do to achieve what you're looking for.
Right. You are projecting your own failure as a coach. I think I already said that, but like just kind of thinking about it in that way. Yeah.
Well, and that's it. Like, because these people are, well, and we do too. Like we make up stories. So you're making up the story about the client. They're making up a story about themselves. Like, oh, I let you down. Like when clients are always like, I'm sorry, I let you down. It's like, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't at all.
No.
Well, in that particular client, be like, hey, I didn't get the workout in today. And I finally told her to go, I want you to realize that like,
I'm okay with that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like I tell you guys to move the workouts. Like I just put them in there. Like,
yeah,
I
say like what days usually work best for you. You can move them though.
Right. And when I say I have one of those text plays, your workouts are in the app. Go to this and then do this to move them on the days that you need to rearrange them. But yeah, she'll be like, I didn't get in the workout today. And I want to be like, you don't have to tell me that.
Yeah.
Like, and for all clients listening, you don't have to tell me that. I look at your stuff usually beginning of the week and the end of the week. And if I see you not tracking for 4 days, yes, I'm going to be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Or not using the food journal. If I see that you pushed all your workouts to the end of the week, I will ask you about that. Do we think this is feasible? do you have the energy to do 3 workouts? Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
No.
Or maybe we just take one away this week and can you do something else? Can you go, hiking or, what is it?
Walk to Oso.
Paddleboard. Yeah. Walk your dog. So I'm not in there like,
yeah,
I'm going to find what's wrong with this person.
Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to hound you and be like, look, you did this wrong.
God, no.
And even it's so funny because
I would hate if someone did.
Well, when my clients get pregnant, because all things go out the window, they are always like, I just couldn't get the workouts in. I'm sorry. Like, I know my nutrition is not looking good. I'm like, you're pregnant. It doesn't feel very good right now, especially in that first trimester. And so I always have to remind them, like, I just want you eating. Like, if the Chick-fil-A is what tastes good right now and you have that 3 times a day, I don't care.
Right.
Because you're eating.
Well, I think too, you tell them, like, I was reading, so my client, Rachel, thank you, Rachel, sent me a book called 101 Essays That Will Change Your Life.
Oh, interesting.
And I read 2 of them to my dad. And one of the stories were basically saying, like, the judgments that we have about others are actually judgments that we have in ourselves. Right. And so when that client's saying, oh, I just couldn't eat, it's like, you need to accept that this is your reality right now, that the Chick-fil-A tastes good and you are feeling that guilt because you've been told that you shouldn't eat this way or you need to eat a certain way. And you're feeling in yourself that disappointment and then saying that it's yours. And if we as coaches showed up for our clients in the way that you assumed we do, like even that statement assumes that you are disappointed in her, then that is a terrible relationship and we would be terrible coaches. But even the fact that you're telling me this means that you actually trust me more than that. So that also tells me that you don't actually think that I'm disappointed in you. You're actually just showing me what you feel about yourself.
Sometimes I ask them, do you really think I think that? And they go, no, I know you would never. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But I think that's the other thing too, is like talking about like, what are their barriers, helping them identify it. So like pregnancy can be a barrier to getting more quality nutrition in, quote unquote. Yeah.
Or it's just a barrier to what was.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Just it's a new season, as we talk about. The other thing is like reframing non-compliance as like feedback, right? So you heard me say, if you listening to our banter, like the positive out of this, I said that twice, the positive out of the dog thing and the positive out of my dad thing, because I'm always looking for that. All right, what did I learn from this situation? And I see that in my clients all the time, where I have a client who wasn't seeing weight loss and I'm like, okay, like we've got to figure this out. And finally I went through every single thing she ate for 2 weeks and like looked at the data and like I put it all together and I was like, she is insulin resistant. And I've never even thought of that for her. And we made the smallest tweaks and just like her weight just went down. And not even tweaks to her calories, just to her food, and that was the feedback of like, okay, the body's like doing this things, like just staying steady. She's doing her workouts. And at the time, actually, she was a little bit lower on the workout. So that was something we talked about, understanding the barriers to that. And then just looking at her food. And in that time frame, we saw that she had just kind of gone off track with where we need to be. And because she's more insulin resistant, her body was like, no way. No way, Jose.
We're just bringing more awareness to her, though. But that I would say is a win. Like you're reframing the positive, but a win of like, okay, now we know that.
Yeah.
And so now you can like have more information. Like information is power.
And then, of course, encouraging self-compassion, recognizing their behaviors have been solutions to their problems. They're not actually the problem. The binge eating is not the problem. The disordered eating is not the problem. The over-exercising is not a problem. It has been there for a long time to help them put out the fire of their perfectionism and they're taking care of everyone else and all of the things and like having compassion for them when those behaviors show up. You are not magic. I'm going to say something. I'm way more educated when it comes to how to handle binge eating and disordered eating. And my clients still do it.
Yeah.
And I have compassion for them when they do that. Or when they don't do something, we have compassion for them when they say, hey, like Kelly was sick. Hey, I'm not going to work out this week or today. I went in to do the warm up and it didn't feel good. So I'm going to rest. And what did I say?
Yay.
I said, great.
Good job.
Good job listening to your body.
Yeah.
And celebrate the small wins.
Funny. I had a conversation this last week with a client about that. of like, she got her period and just wasn't feeling good and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, why don't you just make the choice not to work out rather than like continue to be like, oh, I could do it. I like force myself like to do it or find the time. It's like, just choose to take the day off.
And as coaches, let's think about that process. You push them to do something that they physically don't want to do. So now we're associating that thing we want them to do consistently with this negative thing.
Well, and they've already done that
like shit.
too. Yeah.
Right.
They already pushed their body through stuff they shouldn't have done.
Right. It's like staying with the guy that you shouldn't stay with.
Yeah.
That's not what we want to do. We want to create the most positive experience with movement, with exercise, and so on. So good. Anything else?
No.
Assumptions kill progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity fuels progress. Clients aren't failing. They need different support. Your approach is failing. And the good news is if you have educated yourself enough and you've been doing this long enough, or you've just been listening to us, you'll learn that you can just ask your client, well, what can you do here? Mm-hmm. And they'll tell you. And then you just do that. And for you as a coach who works out 6 days a week and does all the things, it's not going to look like enough to you. And that's a you problem. Mm-hmm. It's not your fucking client's problem. And best coaching approach meets the clients where they are, as we said, not where you think they need to be.
Correct.
And if, again, as a coach, we want to constantly be checking in, what am I making up about this client? Go. This is great. She tapped her nose.
So this is where I'm going to plug where I think every coach needs to do your self-guided.
Do it.
Yeah, because I feel like so many times coaches I'll see are kind of lost on what to approach, but they don't understand what to ask because they haven't asked themselves. Mm-hmm. And so, and I want to say there's a value to getting coached by another coach too. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, I've learned so much from you. And then when I went to Jenny for nutrition coaching, I've learned so much from her.
I learned so much from Jenny too.
Yeah. Like just different stuff, like tricks of the trade. And even like different trainers that I've had or different coaches like in CrossFit gyms.
Even people we interview.
Even people we've interviewed. Yeah. Even like thinking of like all the different types of gyms there are that many types of different coaches, diets, nutritions, all of that. And you can learn from all of it. Just because I've had a client who tends to lean more towards like keto, for example, doesn't necessarily mean that's bad, but I can learn from them that might help another client.
Right.
And so always thinking of like, how can you learn and intake what you know to better serve others,
right,
as opposed to you already assuming that you know because you enjoy fitness, because you like working out. Like just because you like working out and just because you feel like that's your passion does not mean it's appropriate career for you. And I know like there's going to be someone listening to this and they're going to think like, okay, whatever. But I'm telling you, it's very easy to project what you think is best because you are successful onto other people, and for them to feel judged and for them to be stuck in that place of like, I just can never get this right because it's so hard.
Right. I've done it, and I did the macros with the clients and put them at calories they should.
Yeah, you go, here's 1700 blank.
Right. And I worked for a company that promoted that. And I feel bad. I feel not bad. I wish
you could go back and like message them and be like, hey,
yeah,
can I get a redo real quick?
Right.
Because I'm a little bit better.
Right. I'm way better now.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely something that you will improve on, because in this industry too, like there's so many things.
Yes.
So good. But yes, for coaches out there, we have my self-mastery movement. It's completely self-led. It's 4 months, and it walks you through our mindset method, which will help you understand yourself, your relationship with diet, food, and self-worth, understand your parts and the things that come up and how you rescue yourself from these wounded places and your boundary system and so much more. We'll put the link in the show notes below. It's $48. $48. And you get
the whole thing.
Yeah, I know. Maybe not $48. So we're going to increase the price. We actually, Alinka would not like that. We actually moved it to Everett, too, which is nice because you have access to the resources now and so many other things. So for this episode, it's $48. If you want information on coaching with us, you can also check out the show notes for our clarity call. If you haven't already, subscribe, follow wherever you listen to this podcast. We need more reviews. We have more listeners.
Okay.
Just give us a 5. You know, we have a lot of reviews on Spotify, but we need more.
Really?
More than I thought.
I was checking.
You have like 26.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Maybe 12. It's 26 or 12.
Okay, that's
2,000 or 3,000 calories. And I don't know what else I'm supposed to see here. So follow us, love us, like us, and we love you guys. And we want to leave you with this one last thing.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror.
Goodbye.